viewers, welcome to my channel. Before I start this video, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell for more updates. Hi everyone, today I'm going to be reading a book called Captain Underpants and the Attack of the Talking Toilets, the second epic novel by DAV PILKEY. Let's begin. Hello. Before you read this book, there's something you should know. So, Harold and I have created this informative pamphlet to fill you in on the details. Please don't let this comic fall into the wrong hands. The Top Secret Truth About Captain Underpants by George and Beard Hudgett, who deny everything. Once upon a time, there were two cool kids named George and Harold. We are cool, me too. They made their own comics about a superhero named Captain Underpants. Tra-la-la. Everybody thought their comics were funny. Ha 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 ha. Except for their mean old principal, Mr. Krupp. Blah blah blah. Said George and One time, Mr. Krupp was being mean to George and Harold. Blah blah blah. So George. So they bought a 3D hypno ring. They hypnotized Mr. Krupp. I will obey. Then they turned him into Captain Underpants. But Mr. Krupp thought he was really Captain Underpants, so he jumped out of the window to fight crime. Cha-la-la. George and Harold tried to save him, but they had to save the world first, bad guy. Kaboom! When they got back to school, George poured water on Captain Underpants' head. He turned back into Mr. Krupp, but something was wrong. Blah, blah, blah. Because now, for some strange reason, every time Mr. Krupp hears somebody snap their fingers, snap, he turns back into Captain Underpants. Tra-la-la. So whatever you do, please don't snap your fingers around Mr. Krupp. Please, 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 don't snap those fingers. This has been a public service announcement from George and Harold, who still deny everything. The end. Chapter 1, George and Harold. This is George Beard and Harold Hutchins. George's the kid on the left with the tie and the flat top. Harold is the one on the right with the t-shirt and the bad haircut. Remember that now. George Furniture. Come and see our pretty armchairs. Depending on who you asked, you'd probably hear a lot of different things about George and Harold. Their teacher, Miss Ribble, might say that George and Harold were disruptive and behaviorally changed. Their gym teacher, Mr. Meaner, might add they were serious need of a major altitude adjustment. The principal, Mr. Krupp, would probably have a few more choice words to include, like sneaky and criminally mischievous, and I'll get those boys if it's the last thing well, you get the idea. Well, this entire book is just in black and white. The other one I read was in full color, but if you ask the parents, they probably tell you that George and Harold were smart and sweet and very good-hearted, even if they were a bit silly at times. I'd have to agree with our parents. Joe's Furniture, come and see our hairy armpits. Joe's Furniture, come and see our hairy armpits. But even so, their silliness did get them into a lot of trouble. Sometimes, in fact, it got them once into so much trouble, they accidentally almost destroyed the whole planet with an army of evil, vicious talking toilets. But before I can tell you that story, I have to tell you this story. Chapter 2, this story. One fine morning at Jerome Horwitz Elementary School, George and Harold had just gotten out of their 4th grade ready meal gym class when they saw a big sign in the hallway. Second Annual Invention Competition, Grand Prize. George and Harold had fond memories of last year's invention convention, but this year's convention was a bit different. The first prize winner got to be principal for the day. Wow, said George, whoever gets to be the principal gets to make up all the rules for the whole day, and everybody in the school has to follow those rules. And we got to win first prize this year, exclaimed Harold. Just then, George and Harold's principal, Mr. Krupp, showed up. Aha! He shouted. I bet you two are up to no good. Not really, said George. We are just reading about this year's contest. Yeah, said Harold. We're gonna be the first prize of the contest and be principal for the day. Ha 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 ha, laughed Mr. Krupp. Do you honestly think I'd let you two enter this year's contest after that stunt you pulled at last year's invention convention? George and Harold smiled and thought back to first to the first annual invention convention. Chapter 3, The Flashback. It was about 1 year earlier, and all of the faculty and Jerome Horwitz Elementary School had gathered in the gymnasium for what would later be known as the sticky chair indented. George and Harold stepped up to the microphone. I'm having a microphone right now. Ladies and gentlemen, said George, Harold and I have invented something that is guaranteed to keep you all glued to your seats. A glue. You two did not invent glue, he shouted. He stood up and took the microphone away from him. Harold and his chair stood up with him. Everyone in the gymnasium laughed. The school secretary, Miss Anthrope, stood up to remove Mr. Cripp's chair from his pants. Her chair stood up too. Everyone in the gym museum laughed harder. I don't know why I always think it's called gym museum. That would just be really weird. The other teachers stood up, and you guessed it, they were stuck to their chairs as well. Everyone in the audience howled with laughter. One kid stood up to go to the bathroom, and his chair came up with him too. The audience quickly stopped laughing so hard they all checked their chairs, and suddenly the laughter stopped completely. Everyone in their whole school were glued to their seats. You see, while it was true that George and Harold had not invented glue, they had invented a new kind of glue by simply mixing rubber cement with concentrated orange juice mix that created a quick-drying body heat-activated glue. Then they applied this special glue to every seat in the gymnasium except theirs. Early that morning, everybody in the gymnasium was glaring at George and Harold, seething with anger. I've got a good idea, said George. What? Asked Harold. Run! Cried George. George and Harold were grinning from ear to ear, remembering their silly invention and the chaos that followed. That was hilarious, laughed Harold. Yeah, chuckled George. It'll be hard to top this year. Well, you won't get a chance this year, said Mr. Cripp. He took out a magnifying glass and held up on a fine print of the sign. You mean we can't enter the contest, said Harold. It's worse than that, laughed Mr. Cripp. You boys can't even attend this year's convention. I'm putting you two in study hall that whole day, said Mr. Cripp, turned and walked away, laughing victoriously. Wait, I have an idea. No, I'm not reading this from the book. So, what if everybody goes to see the the invention convention? Then George and Harold can sneak in, like peek through the doors and see what's actually going on. Maybe they can probably just, maybe they can pull off a prank everywhere again. Well, not like the one they did last time, but I'm just saying. Maybe I can do that as a prediction, maybe. For those of you who do not know what a prediction means, it means that you can basically guess what it's going to happen next in the story. Yeah. Okay, let's continue reading. Rats, said Harold. What are we going to do now? Well, said George, you know the old saying, if you can't join 'em, beat 'em. Oh! Chapter 4, The Invention. Early that evening, George and Harold sneaked back to school with their supplies. They crept into the gymnasium and peeked around. I think somebody's still listening, whispered Harold. Oh, it's just Melvin Sneedley, said George. Melvin was the school brainiac. He was busy putting some last-minute touches to his new invention for the contest. We should wait here until he leaves, whispered Harold. No way, said George. He could be here all night. Let's go over and talk to him. When Melvin saw George and Harold approaching, he was not happy. Oh no, he said, I bet you guys are here to mess with everybody's inventions. Nice guess, said George. Listen, we promised not to mess with your invention if you promise not to tell anybody that you saw us here tonight. Melvin looked lovingly at his invention and reluctantly agreed. "I promise," he said. "Great," said George. "What is that invention of yours anyways?" "It's just the photocopy machine." It used to be a photocopy machine," said Melvin, "but I've made some major adjustments to it. Now an invention that will revolutionize the world. I call it the Pasty 2000. I'll revolutionize the world and you named it Pasty?" "It'll revolutionize the world and you named it Pasty?" asked Harold. "Yes," said Melvin. "Pasty is an acronym for photo-atomic balloting yetophan-plonic zap-zip domestic." "I'm sorry," said Harold. "That is some weird words that they just said. You just type in the keyboard. Boom. That's that. There you go. It's that thing." "Allow me to demonstrate," said Melvin. "The Pasty 2000 can take any one-dimensional image and create a living, breathing, three-dimensional copy of that image. For example, take this ordinary photograph of a mouse onto the glass screen of the Pasty 2000 and press start. The lights of the gymnasium dimmed all the power in the entire school seemed to get stuck into the Pasty 2000. Soon the machine began to vibrate and hum loudly. Tiny bolts of static electricity snapped out from underneath. "I hope that thing doesn't explode," said Harold. "Oh, this is nothing," said Melvin. "You should have seen how the Pasty 2000 reacted when I copied a poodle." Finally, after a series of flashes, a loud zaps, and everything stopped. A small ding was heard. Then a tiny mouse crawled out the side door of the Pasty 2000 and onto the floor. "Isn't it wonderful?" exclaimed Melvin. "What I would do with that, if I had the Pasty 2000, I would just get a picture of an animal, just put it in there, boom, I got my very own pet." I don't have a pet, if you do not know. George inspected the mouse closely. "That's a great trick," George laughed. "You really had me going for a while." "It's not a trick," cried Melvin. "The Pasty 2000 really does bring photos to life. I even created living creatures from paintings and drawings." "Hey, maybe you can get a picture of an actual person, then put it into there. Boom, you got another living being on the planet. Then you put a couple of hundred of those things, and then boom, you got a bunch of humans." Well, it's definitely going to be a small room, of course. Like the place where he is working. Like, if he makes a bunch of them, then it's just going to occupy the entire room. "Yeah, right," laughed Harold. "And I thought we were con artists." George and Harold walked away chuckling. It was time to move on to bigger and better things. Chapter 5. Bigger and Better Things. George and Harold went to the other end of the gymnasium, opened their backpacks, and began work. George busied himself by turning all the spray nozzles on the automatic dog washer around, while Harold filled up the tank with India ink. Then they moved on to the volcano director. "Will you please pass me this big bag of butterscotch pudding and a Phillips head screwdriver?" asked Harold. "Sure," said George, as he carefully inserted eggs into the electric ping-pong ball server. Chapter 6. The Invention Convention. The following day started out sunny and cheerful. The students and faculty filed into the gymnasium and checked the seats very carefully before sitting down. "Greetings," said Mr. Krupp, who was standing up at the microphone. "You don't need to worry about sticky seats today," he said. "I've taken measures to ensure that this convention won't be a disaster like last year's." Everyone settled in as Madison Maniac. Everyone settled as Medicine Maniac. Maniki, a third grader, stepped out on stage to demonstrate her automatic dog washer in the tub. Then you press this button. Madison pressed the start button. At first, nothing happened. Then suddenly, a spurt of inky black water sprayed up. And out the crowd, everyone except the dog got soaked. Madison tried to desperately turn off the sprayers. "I can't stop it," she cried. "Someone turned all the nozzles around." "Who could have done that?" asked Mr. Krupp. "Well, it's actually George and Harold." Next up was Donnie Schomer. With his electric ping pong ball server, he turned the machine on, and immediately it began hurling extra large grade A eggs into the crowd. Foop, 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 foop went the machine. Splat, 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 splat went the eggs. "I can't turn the machine off," cried Donnie. Somebody jammed a paperclip into the controller. Freddy Morrow's volcano detector was also a big flop. When Freddy connected the circuits to a 9-volt battery, a large spring which had been crammed into the center of his miniature volcano launched a giant plastic bag of butterscotch pudding into the crowd. It landed somewhere between the third and fourth rows. Splat! "Hey," whined Freddy. "Somebody put the pudding in my volcano." "Hey, right. No. Now who could have done that?" said Mr. Muir. "George and Harold." The rest of the day went much the same way, with people shouting from, "Hey, who put oatmeal in the solar-powered leaf blower?" to, "Hey, who let the mice out of my treadmill dun buggy?" It wasn't long before everyone fled the gymnasium of the second annual invention convention had to be called off. "How could this have happened?" cried Mr. Krupp, and wiped chocolate syrup, pencil shavings, cream of mushroom soup off his face. "George and Harold have been in the study hall all day long. I put them there myself." Excuse me, Mr. Krupp said. "I think I have an answer to your question." Chapter 7, Busted. Crash went the door to the study hall. Mr. Krupp stomped in like a crazy person. George and Harold had never seen him that upset before. "You boys are in so much trouble," Mr. Krupp shouted. "I'm putting you two in permanent detention for the rest of the school year." "Wait a second," cried George. "You can't prove anything." "Yeah," said Harold. "We've been here all day." Mr. Krupp smiled devilishly and looked toward the door. "Oh, Melvin!" he called. Melvin Sneedley stepped into the room covered in mustard eggshells, and shredded coconut. "They did it," Melvin said, pointing at George and Harold. "I saw him last night in the gym." "Melvin! Melvin!" cried George, horrified. "You promised." "I changed my mind." Melvin said, grinning smugly. "Have fun in detention." "Oh yeah, just saying, I actually kind of like school." "Yeah, just saying. I'm sad that they closed the schools." "I still blame..." Chapter 8, The Invention, Convention, Detention. It rhymes. The invention, convention, detention, detention, invention, convention, detention, invention, convention. Okay, that's enough. After school, Mr. Krupp ushered George and Harold into the detention room and wrote a long sentence on the chalkboard. "From now on," growled Mr. Krupp, "you boys will spend 2 hours a day at after school, copying the sentence over and over. I want every chalkboard in this room filled completely. On his way out the door. Wait, what you could do if this was on a computer, all you could do is just copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy. And you could just keep going and going. They're probably going to invent something to just take your phone. Maybe you can try and sneak Mr. Krup's phone out. And you can use something like a translator thingamajiggy or something. Then you could just take a photo of it, take copy. Then you just go, and then you just click where you want the writing to go, and boop, there you go. It's there. That would be really cool. Maybe it's going to be invented in the future. On the way out the door, Mr. Krupp turned and said with an evil grin, and if either of you leaves this room for any reason, I'm going to suspend you both. What if it's for the trip to the bathroom? Does that mean that I have to take a trash bin and do it? Okay, that's enough. Well, anyways, this book is about the talking toilets anyways. So yeah. Now, as you might have guessed, you might have guessed, writing sentences has nothing new to do for George and Harold. The two boys waited until Mr. Krupp left the room. Then they took 4 homemade wooden rods out of their backpacks. The rods had holes in them. George and Harold had drilled in George's dad's wood shop. George screwed the rods together, while Harold inserted a piece of chalk into each hole. Oh, I know this trick. You could take 2 markers, you can basically put them together, and then you just write it. It does this. And then you could just do that thing. That's so cool. They took each pole and began copying Mr. Krupp's sentence. Every time they wrote one sentence, the wooden poles made 12. And about 3.5 minutes, every chalkboard in the room was completely filled. George and Harold sat down and admired their work. We've got a lot of time on our hands now, said George. Got any ideas? Let's make a new comic book, said Harold. So the 2 boys took some paper and pens and created an all-new adventure about their favorite superhero. It was called Captain Underpants and the Attack of the Talking Toilets. Chapter 9. Captain Underpants and the Attack of the Talking Toilets. Captain Underpants and the Attack of the Talking Toilets. Story by George Beard. Pictures by Harold Hutchins. So, one day at school, everything was pretty normal. The lunch ladders was serving toasted rat sandwiches. The principal was yelling blah blah blah, and the gym teacher was being mean to everybody. My grandma can run faster than you guys. Pretty sure I'm not. No. Then a UFO appeared. It zapped the school with an evil ray. It made all the toilets come to life. It made them evil too. It made the toilets were hungry. Yum yum, eat up. So they ate the gym teacher. Help! The toilet just scratched somebody's car and ate up the gym teacher. Load of messy. Was it my car? Looks like a job for Captain Underpants. Crash. Captain Underpants ran into the storage room. Yum yum, eat up, eat 'em. He found a bunch of plungers, put them into the toilets. Their mouths got stuck. Tra-la-la. Hooray for Captain Underpants! Now to stop that evil UFO. Captain Underpants went outside and saw the UFO. It opened up, click, and out jumped the terrible Turbo Toilet 2000. I'll flush you. They had a big fight. Captain Underpants was faster than a speeding waste, but Oh yeah, maybe Sonic the Hedgehog and Captain Underpants should have a race. It's like, drill it off. No. Oh yeah, the person who was flying is Captain Underpants because he's flying. Oh wait, Sonic the Hedgehog can just go, roll. Okay, enough with Sonic the Hedgehog. This is Captain Underpants. More powerful than boxer shorts. Okay, take the most powerful boxing person versus Captain Underpants. And able to leave tall buildings without getting a wedgie. Why does everything have to be about underpants for Captain Underpants? Okay, enough. Captain Underpants snuck up behind the toilet 2000 and gave him a wedgie. Wedgie power! Ouchie. How does a toilet even have a brain? Does a toilet have a brain? I mean, a butt? I mean, underwear? Why does he not even know how to? Okay. Then the TT 2000 on it, steps on it, pulled back on, and let go. Twang, kaboom. The spaceship blew up, and all the toilets returned to normal. And the gym teacher escaped. Oh man. The end. Chapter 10. A big mistake. George and Hal sat together in the detention room, reading through their newest comic book and beaming proudly. We've got to go to the office and make copies of this, said George, so we can sell them on the playground tomorrow. We can't, said Harold. Don't you remember? Mr. Crumple said he'd suspend us if he caught us leaving this room. Then we won't let him catch us, said George. George and Harold sneaked out of the hallway. Oh. I see, Miss Ribble. Miss Ribble is peeking out the door. I can see that. Wait, why is Harold holding that book, the comic book, like that is a dog? Alright. Are there any copy machines in this school? How about the one that Melvin had in the gym? Oh yeah, said Harold. Oh yeah, said Harold. I mean George. George and Harold crept over the gym and found the Pasty 2000. Wait, why would you... Okay, wait, hold on. If you use the Pasty 2000, you carved an image of Captain Underpants, then you just put it through. Wouldn't that mean that... Oh, now I get it. It's because Captain Underpants would be much smaller, like in one of the other books that I was reading. I wonder if the machine still makes kappas, said Harold. Melvin did say that he made some adjustments to it. Oh, he probably crammed a mouse in there to fool us, said George. The oldest trick in the book. It's the oldest trick in the book, I'm sure. The machine still makes regular copies, said George. The place is covered with their new comic face down on the screen glass. And pressed start. At once the lights in the whole school dimmed, and the Pasty 2000 will begin to shake and clunking around widely. Giant volts of static electricity zapped out the bottom of the machine as a great whirlwind roused from the top. Okay, I'm going to stop saying that accent. In the room, we're snuck into the window. And they spun above the machine like a raging cyclone. I don't think it's supposed to do this, shouted at George over the horrible noise. Finally, after a series of flashes and loud zaps and noises and windows, sparks spotted all together. The only sound that could be heard was of the groaning and clawing about the inside the bloated, battered frame of the Pasty 2000. Sounds like something's alive in there, said Harold. George snatched the comic book from the top machine. Let's get out of here. Oh, I have a prediction. My prediction is going to be that in the book, they're going to be creating the talking toilet thingamajiggies. Yeah. Yep, I was correct. Turn the picture. Just then, a small ding was heard. The full-size shiny white toilet emerged from the side of the Pasty 2000. Its teeth were sharp and jagged, and its angry eyeballs glowed with red, swelling veins. Yum, yum, beat 'em up, cried the evil toilet. Almost immediately, another talking toilet emerged, followed by a bye. Oh no, Melvin was right. The photomatic trends, smuggle, bloating, really does create living, breathing, three-dimensional copies of one-dimensional images. Harold cried convincingly. I've got an idea, said George. What? Asked Harold. Run! Cried George. Chapter 11, the invention, convention, detention, suspicion. George and Harold. Oh, look. Now it's four words. Invention, convention, detention, suspension. George and Harold screamed and ran out the gym door, closing it tightly behind them. Aha! Yelled Mr. Krepp, who just came down the hall. You boys left the detention room. You know what you do? It wasn't our fault, cried Harold. Too bad, said Mr. Krepp, shouting with delay. You boys are officially suspended. Wait, cried Gerald. There's an army. You got to listen. Behind this door is an army of vicious talk. I don't have to listen to you boys ever again, laughed Mr. Krepp. Now get your stuff and get out of this school. But, Harold stammered. You don't understand. Get out, Mr. Krepp screamed. George and Harold groaned and walked to their lockers. Just open the door when Mr. Krepp is like, I don't need to listen to your boys forever. Don't just stand there. Just open the doors and just run away. Well, also, that would be bad. Never mind. In one day, we've got detention and suspension, and we created an army of evil talking toilets who want to take over the world. That's a pretty bad day, even by our standards, said George. Oh well, said Harold. I just hope things can't get any worse. Okay. Chapter 12, things get worse. I knew that chapter was going to be there. Like, I knew it. The word spread quickly throughout the office that George and Harold had been suspended. The teachers rushed out to cheer and laugh at the two boys. You're in big trouble now, chuckled Miss Anthrop. I can't wait to call your parents and tell them the news. Let's take the desks outside and chop them up, cried Miss Ribble. Let's throw a party in the gym. Shouted Mr. Meaner. No, cried George. Whatever you do, don't open the door to the gym. We can do whatever you like, snarled Mr. Meaner. And he dashed over to the gymnasium floor. Look, I'm opening the door. He quickly opened the door. Now I'm closing the door, he said. Now I'm opening the door again, and now I'm... An evil toilet had stuck its mouth... An evil toilet had stuck its mouth through the door, snapped Mr. Meaner, and swallowed him whole. Flush. The talking toilets pushed their way through the open gymnasium doors and spilled out into the hallway. Yum, yum, yum. Eat 'em up, eat 'em up, the toilets bellowed. Yum, yum, eat 'em up. Snap. The teachers couldn't believe their eyes. They screamed and ran for their lives. Only Mr. Krepp, Miss Frill, and George and Harold remained frozen in fear. They watched paralyzed as the talking toilets came nearer and nearer. Finally, Miss Fribble pointed at the toilets and snapped her fingers. Snap. Go away, she cried. go away this minute. But the twins didn't listen. They moved closer and closer. Finally, Miss Ribble turned and ran. Mr. Krupp, however, just stood there in daze. Uh-oh, said Harold. Did she just snap her fingers? Yep, said George. Now we're really in trouble. And George was right. For the last moment, Mr. Krupp began to change. A silly, heroic smile came over his face. He stood definitely for his foes. I'll put a stop to you, vile villains, he said fearlessly. But first, I need some supplies. Mr. Krupp turned and dashed into his office, and George and Harold ran after him. Why did Miss Ribble have to snap her fingers? Cried Harold. Why? Just find a container of water and just get it on him, okay? Never mind that, cried George. Mr. Krupp is turning into Captain Underpants. We've got to pour water on him over his head before it's too late. Wait, what's the problem? He could fight the toilets, right? Chapter 13, it's too late. When George and Harold reached Mr. Krupp's office, they found only his clothes, shoes, and toupee on the floor. Look, said Harold, the window is open and one of the red curtains is missing. What do we do now? Asked George. Do we save Captain Underpants or do we stay here and get eaten by a bunch of toilets? I wouldn't do that if I were you. Maybe we should just save the teachers or something. Let me think about it. That one, said Harold as he climbed out the window. George quickly collected Mr. Krupp's things and shoved it to his back, and then he jumped out the window after Harold. The two boys slid down the flagpole and ran off to Captain Underpants. Where does he think he's going? Asked George. I have no idea, said Harold, but I think we'd run fast because I think we're being followed. Yes, you are. But two kids are literally sliding down a flagpole on the top of a... Whatever. Captain Underpants dashed through the backyard of some nearby houses and collected pairs of underwear from the clothesline. Mommy, said a little boy, looking out the window, a man in a red cape just stole our underwears. And now two boys are being chased by a ferocious-looking toilet with sharp, pointy teeth, screaming, yum, yum, eat 'em up. Yeah, right, laughed his mother. Just how gullible do you think I am? Chapter 14, The Talking Toilet Takeover. When Captain Underpants was finished commanding the underwear of local civilians, he dashed back to Jerome Horwitz Elementary to save the day. The school was now overrun with chaos. Miss Ribble came tearing out the door, followed by several evil toilets. Help me, she cried. They swallowed every teacher in the whole building except me. Don't worry, ma'am. I won't let them eat you up, Captain Underpants said as a toilet ate her up. Oops, said Captain Underpants. Now only George, Harold, and Captain Underpants were left. They stood on the front lawn of the school, completely surrounded by hungry, drooling toilets. Yum, yum, eat 'em up, said the talking toilets. Chanted, yum, yum, eat 'em up. Yum, yum, eat 'em up. Yum, yum, eat 'em up. We're doomed, cried Harold. Never underestimate the power of underwear, cried Captain Underpants as he stretched a shot of underwear into the waiting mouths of the talking toilets. Just find more plungers or something. Just find more plungers, put them inside of the mouths or something. Captain Underpants can carry George and Harold to safety, right? He could do that, right? Yeah, he can fly. Or did he not even get his powers yet? Because in the comic, it did say that he had powers. Oh yeah, he doesn't have powers yet. Not that I think of it. Unfortunately, the toilets just swallowed the underwear whole. I don't know, see them to make them hungrier and hungrier. If only we could think of something that would make them really sick, said George. Maybe take some bad food. Or maybe take some bad things that people are not supposed to eat. For example, maybe video games? Nah, a car? Maybe Captain Underpants could just push a car. Oh yeah, he doesn't have superpowers. I should stop. I should remember that that Captain Underpants does not have any superpowers. Then what makes him a superhero? You can't really see my mouth that much, except that my lips. Alright. Yeah, Harold continued. Some so violent, scathing. It would make them blow their cookies and weather their agony. Suddenly, George and Harold's faces lit up. Cafeteria food, they shouted, and faster than speeding waistband, our three heroes dashed into the school. Chapter 15, Creamed Chippy Beef to the Rescue. George, Harold, and Captain Underpants got inside the school safely and closed the front door behind them. I think the toilets are outside. Are all outside, said George. But not for long, said Harold. They quickly ran to the school kitchen and discovered a cart holding a large vat of something green and sludgy. Yuck, said George, blowing his nose. What is that stuff? Holding his nose. I think it's tomorrow's lunch, he said. Perfect, said George. I never thought I'd be glad to see creamed chipped beef. Together, they wheeled the tub of stinky green glop down the hallway and out the side of the door. Captain Underpants sat on the cart and stretched a pair of underwear over his head like a slingshot. Oh, they're going to take spoons of it, and then they're just going to launch it. George stood over him. He scooped some cafeteria food into the underwear and stretched it back. Harold wheeled the cart toward the talking toilets. Tra-la-la, shouted Captain Underpants loudly. The talking toilets turned and saw our three heroes. All at once they shouted, Yum, yum, eat 'em up! And the chase was on. Harold pulled the cart. Wait, what if you try and make into a ginormous circle and then just like throw the entire pot on them? Then they would just eat it, basically. Okay, maybe that is actually a better idea. Harold pulled the cart across the playground as the toilet zipped after that. Fire one! Cried Captain Underpants. George shot a glob of cream chipped beef into the first toilet's mouth. Harold kept pulling as George scooped another serving into the first toilet's mouth. The toilet swallowed it whole. Harold kept pulling as George scooped another serving into the underwear. Oh yeah, it's gonna make it extra gross since okay, I don't know. Is that underwear clean? Oh yeah, it is because Captain Underpants stole the underwear. That's why. Fire two! Cried Captain Underpants. Zip went the cafeteria food right into the second toilet's mouth. The whole process repeated itself until every last toilet had swallowed at least 2 servings of creamed chipped beef. We're almost out of ammo, Captain Underpants shouted. I don't think I can run anymore, said Harold, huffing and puffing. Don't worry, look, said George, pointing at the toilets. They had all slowed down. They were beginning to groan and wobble around. Their eyes crossed, and they turned an odd shade of green. Look out, cried Harold. I think they're gonna hurl. And that's what they did. George and Harold and Captain Underpants watched the toilets and chuckled. Everyone, as they had eaten during the day, the creamed chipped beef and the underwear, even the teachers, all came out with a scratch. The toilets spun around in small circles and fell to the ground dead. They're alive, he said, unconscious, but alive. Wow, said Harold. That was so easy. What do you mean, asked Harold. George pulled their comic out of the backpack. His backpack showed it to Harold. Remember how the Pasty 2000 turned everything on the front cover and the comics back to life? He asked. Yeah, so, he said. Well, said George and Harold as he pointed to the Turbo Toilet 2000 at the front of the cover of the comic. To the Turbo Toilet 2000 on the front of the cover of the comic. We haven't seen him yet. Chapter 16, the Turbo Toilet 2000. Suddenly, the Turbo Toilet 2000 came charging out the front door of the school with a terrible crash. The earth rumbled. The earth rumbled as beneath its mighty footprint, as nearly a ton of twisting steel and raging porcelain descended upon our heroes. Crash! You three meddling fools may have destroyed my army of talking toilets, screamed the Turbo Toilet 2000. But you're all out of the cafeteria food. How are you gonna stop me? I'll tell you how, Captain Pinch said boldly. With wedgie power. You can't fight with that thing. You'll rip you to pieces. Boy, said Captain Pants nobly. I must fight. Not said boy, said Captain Pants nobly. I must fight this villainy for truth, justice, and that all that is pre-shrunk and cottony. George, Captain Underpants leaped onto the Turbo Toilet 2000. The battle began. I sure hope this doesn't lead to extremely graphic violence, said Harold. Me too, said George. Chapter 17, the extremely graphic violence, chapter part 1, in Flippy Rama. Warning, the following chapter contains intense scene showing a man in his underwear battling a giant toilet. Please do not try this at home. You can't try this at home, of course. Introducing Flippy Rama. Okay, I'm not going to read this, but you can pause the video and read this as well. Okay. You can do this again. Oh wait, no, this is mine. Okay. Flippy Rama 1. Wedgie power versus potty power. Wedgies. Slippy Rama 2. Oh no, the potty power punch prevails. Look at Captain Underpants' face. It's like... Okay, that's enough. The carnivorous car mode captures the captain. Chapter 18, Harold and the Purple Ballpoint Pen. I thought it was a red ballpoint pen. Everything seemed hopeless. Captain Underpants had slipped and fallen into the mouth of the Turbo Toilet 2000, and now the giant toilet was coming after George and Harold. Ha 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 ha, laughed the powerful porcelain predator. Once I've eaten you two kids up, I'll take over the world. Not if we have to say anything about it, yelled George. George and Harold ran to the school and locked the door behind them. The Turbo Toilet banged against the door with fists, shouting, "You boys can't hide in there forever." Of course they can't, because they'll oof once they're old enough. Or maybe they'll oof because they ran out of the cafeteria food or something. Maybe, yeah. How about the giant robot urinal? We need to invent a character who can defeat the giant robot toilet. How about the giant robot urinal? Asked Harold. We call it the urinator. No way, said George. They'll never let us get away with that in a children's book. We're skating on thin ice, as it is. All right, said Harold. How about a giant plunger robot? He can carry a really big plunger. That's it, cried George. So Harold took out his purple ballpoint pen and began to draw. Give him laser eyes, said George. All right, said Harold. And I'll give him a turbo-amatic rocket boosters. Okay, first of all, how are you going to get the materials to build it? Is it already built or something? I don't think it is. Yeah, it isn't, because then why are they drawing it? Like, why? if you sure you can add those stuff, but you don't have the material. If you do. I had to make him obey our every command, said George. I'm way ahead of you, said Harold. Harold finished the drawing, and George inspected it carefully. This might just work, said George. Yeah, said Harold, if the Pasty 2000 can hold out. The boys turned and looked at the dented, cracked, and beaten-up machine laying on its side in the corner. George and Harold pushed the Pasty 2000 upright and dusted it off. Come on, Pasty, old girl, said George. We really need you now. Yeah, said Harold. The fate of the entire planet is in our hands. It feels like most stories or things I watch, or read, it's like the fate of the world is in our hands. The fate of the world is in our hands. The fate of the world is in our hands. The fate in the world is in our hands. It feels like that. Chapter 19, The Incredible Robo-Plunger. Oh, that's how they get it. They've used the Pasty 2000 to create it. Are you okay, Brain? Looks like he's dead. Okay, that's enough. The whole gymnasium shook with the photonic. Oh, wait. Lights around them dimmed as the wearing machine began to shake and smoke. Lightning bolts, thunderclaps, and the whole gymnasium shook with the photomatic trains, smuggleberry, energy. Come on, Pasty, George shouted over the whole night. You can do it, baby. A small thing was heard, and Pasty 2000 coughed up and stood valiantly before George and Harold. It was the incredible Robo-Plunger. Hooray, cried George. It worked. Way to go, Pasty, Harold cheered. Now let's go outside and kick some turbo toilet tushy. Clunk. Chapter 20, Extremely Graphic Violence, Chapter Part 2, in Flippy Rama. Notice the following chapters contain terrible, naughty scenes depicting a giant toilet getting its shiny hiney kicked. The toilet violence was carefully monitored by PETT, People for Ethical Treatment of Toilets. No actual toilets were harmed during the making of this chapter. Chapter 4, Flippy Rama 4, The Incredible Robo-Plunger to the Rescue. Kablam! Incredible Robo-Plunger kicks the TT2000's tushy. Oink. Take the TT2000 takes the plunge. Wait, did I even read this? Yeah, I didn't. The TT2000 takes the plunge. Chapter 21, The Aftermath. The incredible Robo-Plunger had defeated the evil Turbo Toilet 2000, but George and Harold's problems weren't over yet. They reached into the crumble mouth of the TT2000 and pulled out the principal. What happened here? Cried Mr. Krupp. The school has been destroyed. Our teachers are unconscious, and I'm standing here in my underwear. Oh, because his saliva turned him back. Uh-oh, Harold whispered. Captain Underpants must have gotten toilet water. Oh, yeah, I forgot. That was the toilet. Toilet water on his head. he turned back to Mr. Krupp. George took Mr. Krupp's clothes and hair out of his backpack. Oh yeah, if you do not know that Mr. Krupp actually wears a wig, so he's actually bald. I still never understood why Mr. Krupp's, aka Captain Underpants, like his head is like a triangle, like basically a triangle. Or a mountain, could be a mountaintop because it's like 3D. There you go. I'm ruined. Principal Krupp whined as he dressed himself. I'm gonna be held responsible for this mess. I'm gonna lose my job. Who's even gonna fire you? Maybe not, said George. We can fix this everything and clean up this whole mess. Yeah, said Harold. But it'll cost you. Cost me what? Mr. Krupp, said George. We'd like to have you cancel our detention and suspension. We'd also like to be principals for the day, said Harold. All right, said Mr. Krupp. If you can really fix everything, you've got a deal. George and Harold turned and spoke to the incredible robo-planter. All right, robo-guy, said George. Make yourself useful and pick all this mess. Yes. And fix up the school, too, said Harold. Use your laser eyes to repair all broken windows and stuff. And when you're done, said George, take all the evidence and fly it up to Uranus. And don't come back, said Harold. You might need him in handy, though. Why are you telling him to go away? Chapter 22. To make a long story short, the robot obeyed. Chapter 23, after the aftermath. After the aftermath. Okay, it's like after the math. Don't you get it? After and math? Aftermath. After the aftermath. The incredible robo-planter soared off into space as the teachers began to regain consciousness. I just had the strangest dream, said Miss Fribble. It's all about these evil toilets who wanted to take over the world. We had the same dream, too, said the other teachers. Well, said Mr. Krupp, things turned out right after all. Not quite, said George. It's payback time. Chapter 24, Principles for the Day, or the Invention, Convention, Detention, Suspension, Prevention. How many times are you going to put invention in there? Like the T-I-O-N. I mean N-T-I-O-N. Never mind, just the T-I-O-N. Let's go. Invention, convention, detention, suspension, prevention, detention, dimension. Or the invention, convention, detention, suspension, prevention, detention, convention, invention, detention, suspension, prevent now, Okay, attention students, said Harold over the intercom. For the following day, this is Principal George. You are excused from classes today. There will be no homework or tests. Everybody gets an A+ for the day. That's right, said Principal Harold. Also, we're hosting an all-day recess outside, complete with free pizza, french fries, cotton candy, and live DJ. Now go with plans outside. I'd just say, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing that. Principal George, Principal Harold strolled outside to... Okay, I can't believe that's how much children they have. Like, in their school. Well, probably how much I have. George got a slice of pepperoni pizza while Harold made himself a banana split. I don't see George and Harold. While Harold made himself a banana split at the all-you-can-eat ice cream sundae bar. It's good to be principal, said George. Yep, said Harold. I wish we could be principals every day. Later, George and Harold paid a visit to the unfortunate folks who were spending the day writing sentences in the detention room. All the teachers, along with Mr. Krupp and Melvin Sneedly. Mr. Krupp looked out the window at the all-day recess celebration going outside. How are you boys going to pay all that ice cream and pizza, he asked. We sold some stuff, said Harold. What did you sell? Said Mr. Krupp. Your antique walnut desk and leather chair, said Harold. And all the furniture in the teacher's lounge. What? Screamed Krupp. I think we better leave now, said Harold. George and Harold left the detention room in a hurry. Miss Anthrop snapped his fingers at him. Snap. Come back here right now, she yelled. Uh-oh, said George. Did Miss Anthrop just snap her fingers? Snap. Within seconds, Mr. Krupp dashed out the detention room and ran out the hallway toward his office. He had a goofy, heroic, all too familiar looking smile on his face. Oh no, cried Harold. Here we go again, said George. You can pause the video and read this as well. Here are all the characters. Captain Underpants, Naughty Cafeteria Ladies, George Beard, Wicked Wedgie Woman, Harold Hutchins, Professor Poopy Pants, the Talking Toilets. Here's some more characters. Here's Bonnet Booger Boy, Ook, Solo, Gluck, Crackers, Super Diaper Baby. Yeah, here are the series of some of the books. We're going to do some of these later. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in my next one. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, give a like, and hit the notification bell for more updates. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!